Hey Amit, we are live now. Uh, Today is a discussion with Amit Sinha, the author of Do Different, the Untold Dhoni. Like Amit is also known as the random cricket photos guy. He posts amazing trivia on Twitter. If you have not, please check him out on Twitter. He's active on LinkedIn as well. But the trivia that he posts out there, as a cricket fan and in general as a sports enthusiast, you will get a lot of joy from his work. Amit, thank you so much for joining us today. Really appreciate you being under the weather and taking time out for this.
No, thank you so much, Hemang, for that nice little introduction and diverting some people to the Twitter account. But yeah, thank you so much for getting me here. And well, I'm ready to talk cricket any day, any in any health condition. So I don't mind it at all.
I think for me, cricket is a medicine. Like especially when I'm under the weather, I I go on to YouTube and turn on some like really old
Absolutely,
cricket highlights.
absolutely, same. I mean, only yesterday I was watching some 2001 Ashes match ka full highlights, and there is no rhyme or reason to do it. It's just that okay, I have these highlights. So this is today. I'm not feeling too well. I don't have a lot of time to give to other things. Let's just sit back, relax, and watch. And there's so much to learn, enjoy. I love it. I absolutely love it.
Agree. Uh, so Amit, I guess coming to Dhoni,
Right,
I want to just start with where I learned about him.
right,
See, I discovered Dhoni a bit late. Normally as a cricket enthusiast, I love to watch someone who's up and coming and say that hey, this person is going to be exciting, for the future. Uh,
right.
Now, when Dhoni was in his very early days, like 2003 to 2007, I
Hmm.
was in the US, and my introduction to or my being in touch with cricket was through Cricinfo and the text commentary.
Yeah.
So I learned a lot of the context of what was happening on the ground. So
Okay.
the real time when I watched Dhoni was at the 2007 T20 World Cup final. So I saw sort of the legend, happening right there. But the
Right.
part before there was, as a viewer, I completely missed out on. When did you come across Dhoni?
I came across Dhoni in again. I remember watching the India Bangladesh series in 2004. Remember 2004 as a year was quite bad for Indian cricket because it began very well. India defeated Pakistan in Pakistan and like in tests and ODIs, and then it absolutely went off the hill. Like we lost the Asia Cup. We went to Amsterdam to play a tri series against Pakistan and Australia. We could not qualify for the final. We went to England for a three-match ODI series. We lost that. We went to Champions Trophy. We lost that. We could not proceed beyond the group stage. So 2004 was quite a year, and and you could see how the fates, the fortunes were changing in Indian cricket. And Saurav Ganguly's golden period was possibly from 2003 World Cup to 2004 the Pakistan tour, and at that point it looked like okay, this is the team that is going to go. It's going to have its own uh, years long domination. But things began to the wheels came off very quickly for Team India at that point. And so 2004 December, I remember India Bangladesh again. At that point India Bangladesh was not as fancied or anything, but we were still watching it because it was an opportunity to see Team India win something. So that's when we watched MS Dhoni. Remember very well how he got run out on debut. And the thing was that at that point, there were so many wicket keepers who were coming in and going out of the team. Of course, Dravid had held fort for a fairly long period of time, but then there was the Diges, the Dahiyas, the Das Guptas, right after and Mongia. So we thought, okay, we are giving a chance to someone else, and he's going to. But yeah, Dhoni in just in his build and with his hair, he looked different, and he got run out first ball. Okay. Next match I remember very well. It was a match that India lost to Bangladesh. It was uh, on the day when the tsunami took place, 26 December 2004. So and there was a point when Dhoni came out to bat. The target was around 229 or something, and Dhoni and Joginder Sharma were the two new players in this team. And of course, with the kind of swagger that he had and with which he, used to walk into the crease, there was a lot of expectation that he can take us to the win, because India had lost around 6 wickets. I remember Sridhar and Sriram had made 50 odd runs, 53 or something, and then he got out. Like he just like hit a shot towards mid wicket and he gave away his wicket, and we were very disappointed. I and my father used to watch cricket. We were very disappointed. Next match also, nothing much. So yeah, I remember having watched Dhoni then, but again, even at that point, there was something about Dhoni that stood out. Of course, especially because of his build, especially because of the hair. We hadn't seen someone with that sort of hair, like someone like Jason Gillespie, long hair. It's different, but Dhoni like hair was like, यार ये क्या मतलब ramp पे walk करने आ रही है क्या? John Abraham kind of hair. But and his batting also was so like different looking, in the sense that you I mean, mostly the bat, the face is largely closed, right? He would bat with a, like, तुम्हें वो Reebok का RBK पूरा दिख रहा है सामने, right?
Yeah.
So he would really wield the bat like an axe. So that was my introduction to Dhoni. But then again, the Pakistan match that happened, Vishakhapatnam, it's like 5th
Yeah.
April, I remember. And that was, I mean, exactly what we were waiting for, right? I remember Saurav Ganguly in the 2003 World Cup. What we lacked was a wicket keeper, batsman like Adam Gilchrist, and that's something that
Yeah.
Saurav Ganguly later said also, that if we had one wicket keeping batsman, like that would have helped us to possibly win the World Cup. And with the kind of shots he played here, of course, he was not the most technically attractive cricketer.
Hmm.
And there were people like Deep Das Gupta, when he began, was a very technically attractive guy and a solid
True.
guy. But his power was something else, and you could see that, okay, he's going to do something. And look, in his fifth match, it's not a century, it's 148. And it's not a 148 like, of 150 deliveries or something. He just like took the game to another level. He started batting with Sehwag, and then like in an hour, Sehwag was out. Sehwag also played very well, but he was out, and he had absolutely made everyone fall in love with him in that particular inning. So that was my introduction with Dhoni. And what I always keep on saying, that had it been for that one knock, not I'm not too sure that aura around him would have been built. But again, India hit turbulent times once again in 2005. The entire Chapel Ganguly saga happens. India goes on to lose,
Yeah.
tri series in New Zimbabwe, New Zealand, many losses, and then the 2005 Sri Lanka series happens. So in the same year, he makes a 148, and then he scores another 183. So,
Yeah.
like 2005, no matter how bad it was for Indian cricket, for all that was happening in and outside of it, it did give us a star. And like there was like after that 183 knock, there was no doubt that it's not a like flash in the pan. This guy is here for a long time.
Uh, True. So earlier this morning, I was watching a clip where I think it's a Pakistani news channel where Misbah Ulaq was remembering, Dhoni and his early conversation. So I think Dhoni, as a part of India A, had played against Misbah and
Yeah,
the team in Pakistan A,
right.
and apparently, Dhoni had given them quite a bit of a beating, and Misbah
Yeah,
recalls it
two
amazingly well.
centuries back to back. Yeah.
Yeah. And Misbah, his words were to the team at the time that he'd be careful of this player when Pakistan was touring India, that he's
Hmm,
quite an explosive player because he
right.
would hit the balls and he's like, we had to replace the balls. They were never to be found. And the players initially were doubting him because I think in the first match or something, Dhoni got out for a very early score. And then once he hit that 148, that set the belief, man, that, this
Yeah.
guy is something special.
Yeah. Absolutely. I remember, and even that innings, now it's available on YouTube. And I think it's such a strange thing, because not a lot of India A matches were shown at that time on television. That match was on television. It was on 10 Sports. And of course, I don't know how many people watched it, but the fact that it was on television, and people like Javagal Srinath, Atul Vasan, Saba Karim, these were all people who were on, the commentary panel. And these were people who would have a fair amount of influence on how things would pan out in the coming years for Indian cricket. And when they are talking about MS Dhoni in those two innings where he scored centuries, you could see that they are absolutely mesmerized. They are talking in terms of, this guy needs to be protected, and this guy needs to be, his talent need to be harnessed, and we should make sure that he doesn't lose his way. So yeah, that series itself, you could see that it was just not us getting impressed by his big hitting skills, but there was something about him that stood out. And in that series, people like Gautam Gambhir, he in fact opened, not opened, but yeah, he came in at number 3. There was Gautam Gambhir, Dheeraj Jadhav, a lot of India probable, Sridhar and Sriram as well. But yeah, the way Dhoni played it, you could see, you could hear it in the words of the commentators that they were absolutely mesmerized, and there was no way that he could not be a part of the team in the coming times. And again, late December, he made his debut.
Amazing. So I guess on the early days of Dhoni, there's something quite interesting on how he was discovered, and I don't
Right.
think a lot of people know about this thing. This acronym called TRDO, this
Hmm.
Talent Research and Development Officer.
Yeah.
Is
Yeah.
that the
Yeah.
right acronym?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Can you talk a bit more about it? And I guess from what you've seen, like in your research for this book, what were
Yeah.
their notes like? What were their observations on Dhoni?
No, I think like I would want people to read the book for this, but yeah, generally about discovering Dhoni when it comes to TRDO, and the discovery that happened. What I keep talking about is that who would have thought that a guy from Bihar who is opening for Bihar, and you see that lineup, Bihar lineup, where from early Ranji 2001 Ranji Trophy, you won't find a single guy who had made to any other level, like not coming even very close to an India cap. There are a lot of players who went on 8 tours and all, but not nobody from Bihar. So for me, that is the rise of Dhoni, that he came from Bihar, a team like the names are almost abhi, you can look at those names and none of them would strike you. And from there, he goes on to make his name for the India A team after having lost out on the spot in the under 19 World Cup. So, and then made it to India team. So one thing that I like want to bring to this, like, discovery is one thing, but what stood out about Dhoni and his entire journey, and like it's not about the early journey, even to the in the later parts of his career, that he was very stoic in the face of beat victory or defeat, right? And in those years, like, I'm pretty sure that the seeds of that was sown in the years where he faced rejections. He was not part of the railways team, he was not part of the India under 19 team. He had to wait for his debut till 24, right? And 24, again, like, if you're playing for Bihar and if you have not attracted any attention, a lot of people would think, okay, 24 is the age where you would, by that time, you are not, like, you would have to do something extraordinary to get the attention of Team India selectors or something. So he kept on at it, he kept at it, and he got his chance. And we see the same thing with his the captaincy as well. So there were a lot of these ups and downs in the early stage of Dhoni's career, Dhoni's life, which I believe in a way prepared him very well to deal with the highs and lows of the career that followed after he put on the India jersey. So yeah, more than that discovery bit, which I would, as I said, that would ask the readers to figure out in the book, I think this is the part that I want to talk about. And like, as I said, discovery is one thing, but to persevere the way he did, and the way it prepared him for his India career, that is the most fascinating aspect for me. And that shows that he had that maturity quite early in his age, and the maturity that we saw after he put on his India jersey and became a captain was pretty much a byproduct of the highs and lows that he had seen in that period.
Now, in your research, had you seen him become a captain early on? Like, so we know I guess the story we've been told before, right? That
Yeah.
2007 ODI World Cup final, we had a very poor showing. There's the
Mm.
T20 World Cup. No one believes in T20 as a format. They're like, okay, let's send a team of youngsters out there to participate. But that
Right.
team of youngsters did have experienced people in terms
Yeah.
of when they had made their debut before Dhoni, and
Yes.
suddenly he's chosen as the captain.
Yeah.
Now, the persona which I've read across, it's like he comes across as this wicket-keeper batsman, big hitting ability. He can take you across the finish line. You don't
Right.
see people who are slotted like those become captains necessarily.
Yeah. Very true.
But yet, there must have been some belief, right, that hey, this guy can become a big leader. When do you
Yeah.
see that belief? Where did that come from?
So I'll tell you what, I was just reading, the books that they release before the big World Cups, right? So there was this book in my office, just 2007 World Cup precursor sort of a book, and there was a page that was like on Yuvraj Singh, his profile and all, and it said Yuvraj Singh, the successor to Rahul Dravid. So in early 2007, it is thought that okay, Yuvraj Singh is going to be the one who would succeed Rahul Dravid. But I think where things, and of course we know the story that it was Sachin Tendulkar of all people who recommended MS Dhoni for captaincy, and of course there are no documented facts to corroborate that. But what I feel and what I so the journey of Sachin Tendulkar and the journey of MS Dhoni, the similarity there is again that they had seen their ups and downs. Like, I mean, by 2007, Sachin has had a long career, right? So he has seen the best and the worst.
True.
And where Sachin might have, you know, gone in favor of Dhoni over other established names like a Viru or a Yuvraj or a Bhaji or a Zahir was in how collected and calm and collected Dhoni was in response to things. And we know that, like, with Yuvraj, these are all like very good cricketers, but they had their emotional highs and lows, right? And even in terms of discipline, also there were things that were being said around. And I mean, the reason why the entire Guru Greg Chappell thing happened, like this episode happened, uh, was because Greg Chappell felt that there was this superstar syndrome that was creeping up into the Indian cricket team. And again, if you read his book Fear's Focus, he says that there would be people who would leave their kit bag and wait for others to pick it up for them, and all of those things. So I believe it was that stage in Indian cricket where that had happened. And of course, Sachin has been, he's the Bhishma Pitama of Indian cricket. He has seen everything, he
Yeah.
has seen everyone. And I think that's where the discipline, the calm demeanor of MS Dhoni might have struck him as something that, okay, this guy, of course, I mean, he must have the brains to impress Sachin as well. But yeah, because Indian captaincy is a tricky job, and Sachin knows it the best player and worst possible captain, arguably. And yeah, I think that's where it tilted the scales in favor of MS Dhoni, because by this time these were big stars, but at the same time they also had their issues and not at the peak of their form. So there were things that were not, like, that would not, uh, I would say, assure people that okay, they would be able to deal with the highs and lows of captaincy. So I think that's where Dhoni was the one Sachin saw ki, okay, this guy has it in him to deal with things in a very calm and collected manner, something that is very important if you are a Team India captain.
True, and in a lot of Dhoni's interviews, post-match interviews, whether we won or whether we lost, I don't think I ever saw him say the boys played well or something like that. Right? Where it's always like the players did this thing good, and if it was someone who was young, he said they were youngsters. So he's calling them players. He's not saying that okay, I'm above them because I'm the captain and all that. Like there's a
Yeah.
sense of respect and belonging. I feel that he brought in just by observing him, through the post-match ceremony.
Yeah, and I mean, that's the part where he's dealing with the youngsters, right? But how did he deal with the big players? He was like, till a few months ago, he was a debutant in the dressing room full of stars, and then he became their captain. So that journey must have been quite difficult. But again, we don't hear much about it. We don't see a lot of implications or consequences of that, at least negative ones. And that's, again, I think that's another incident that it's mentioned in the Dhoni touch by Bharat Sundaresan, where he talks about how Dhoni was very clear in the way how he would, treat the people outside the ground and outside the field and on the field. On the field, he was the captain, of course, and even then, Sachin Tendulkar was a part of, so whatever field suggestion, field position he had to be moved to, he would move. But off the field, Dhoni was like as in awe of Sachin Tendulkar as any fan would be. And he says that in his 200 test, Dhoni would take his wife Sakshi, and Sakshi would say, "Ki I want an autograph of yours to Sachin." And so Dhoni would like knock on the door of his hotel room, and he Sakshi went inside, got the autograph. Dhoni just stood outside like a good class monitor. So he had that amount of respect for them, of course, but he did not allow that respect to come in the way of making practical decisions. Even with the Saurav Ganguly, the handling of Saurav Ganguly or Rahul Dravid,
Right.
after a point of time, they were definitely not like the best woe of the ODI setup. So they had to be done away with. But at the same time, it did not. We also saw how he gave the farewell to Saurav Ganguly in his final test, giving him the captaincy
Right.
reins for the last few overs. So yeah, so those were things about Dhoni, practical and very clear in his head how he treated people, and I think that's where he succeeded, because I mean, that's where someone like Sachin also could not succeed, because there were so many seniors in the team when in '96 Sachin took over the team, and it would not have been easy despite him being the best player, right? So, but despite that, Dhoni, handled things very well, and it's a result of that like the team did go on to achieve some really great things in the first 6 years, at least 2007 to 2013. Incredible performances in white ball cricket.
I guess the segue to that is like, as a viewer and as a fan of the Indian cricket team, I grew up, watching cricket in the '90s, where the mandate was if you win the toss, you better bat first, and if the other team, for whichever reason, they put you on for chasing, it was like less than a 50% chance. But I
Yeah.
think Dhoni changed this template, right, of chasing and taking the game to the end.
Yes.
I don't know, in all your research and all that, did you see the beginnings of that in his early career? Like, when did this transition happen? Because, see, as a new player, anyone who's in the team, and look at his backstory, he's come from Bihar, he's gotten this chance, he's cracked the top 11 team, that a billion people look up to.
Right.
There's a lot of, I guess, uh, a legacy thing that you want to carry forward. That
Absolutely.
this is how it's done. Here is how people have done before me, and this is the way the game is played. But
Right.
he changed this thing. He flipped this up. How do you think that happened?
Okay, there are a couple of things there, and again, partly research based and partly my observation about things. One thing is for sure that Dhoni had a great amount of self belief. So you put him in any situation, he knew that he had the power to send the ball out of the ground against any bowler, right? So that's something that he had. So even if like as I said, and we have seen that if even if last over 15 runs are required, he would back himself no matter what. So he had that self belief, and that self belief had gotten him to Team India, and that self belief had led to his rise. So he would have anyway made a fantastic finisher. Plus the fact that you know he's unafraid of failures. We saw that early on in his career. Not everybody in his fifth match, when his career has 4 matches, 19 runs, and probably on the verge of getting dropped, he would come out and start hitting them out of the ground. So he had that fearlessness about him. So those couple of things definitely made him a great person to finish matches. And at the same time, something that happened while MS Dhoni was becoming a solid part of the Indian team, and again post 2005, if you remember, we went on this hot streak of most record number of chases by Team India under Guru Greg, and that was something I feel was was a combination of Greg Chappell and Rahul Dravid's, because that was something we were historically poor at. We would falter. The NatWest Trophy win is so big for us because for once we managed to do it, but otherwise we would generally falter. And it was seen as an area that needed to be fixed. And in Yuvraj Singh and Dhoni, we had the best two middle order batsmen who had the game not only to who had the maturity as well as the game to finish. So I think that era, that time helped, where there was a fair amount of emphasis on chasing and winning, not just batting first and winning. You chase and win. And in that period only you see these matches against Pakistan in 2006, 2007, 2006 especially, where Dhoni and Yuvraj would make these huge partnerships and finish the match. So that set a template for Team India. And of course, as I said, that post that Dhoni also got like, and there are always those questions of why did not he bat up the order, why did not he stick to a number 4 position. In fact, he opened also once, why, and he had opened all his pretty much playing for Bihar and Jharkhand, so why didn't he open? But in that Greg Chappell era, when it was so important to finish matches, chase matches and win, Dhoni had become India's like go to number 5, number 6 batsman. There are a number of these partnerships between Yuvraj and Dhoni in 2005, 2006, 2007. So that set the template. He of course had the backing of the team, he had the self belief, and he was always fearless. So he became that person. And what I like about Dhoni as the captain is that as a captain he took that responsibility. So of course, being a finisher is one of the toughest jobs in white ball cricket, because like 8 out of 10 times you are likely to finish the second best here. You are not going to win every game. But
True.
yeah, but to be able to take that responsibility to say that okay, I will go and do it. And that when the captain says this, when the captain does this, a, of course, he earns the respect of his team when he says okay, I will do it. B, he earns even greater respect when he goes on to do it. So that's what that was something about MS Dhoni, that like throughout the 2019 World Cup also, we believed that if he's there till the end, he can do it. So he had that great amount of self belief, calm, and what began in the Greg Chappell era sort of helped to ensure that he would be in that position.
Thanks for sharing that. I did not know that he used to open for Bihar and Jharkhand in his early
He
days,
did, he
and
did.
it's very rare to see someone who batted that up the order take on the
Yeah.
mantle of "I'll be a finisher."
Exactly. And honestly, that's what, like, there is a chapter where I talk about his 96 against England. It was a 2006 ODI series. And the reason I mentioned that 96 is because India had lost their 4 wickets for the loss of 4 or 5 wickets for the loss of, for the score of 50 runs or so. In deep trouble, he forged a partnership with Romesh Pawar of all people, and took India to around 230 or 223. So, and he scored 96. And it's like very hot. He has to play with an ice bag up his back. It's so hot. Like it's such a strange, weird image. So he had the game of an opener. He It's not that he could not face the early swinging ball. His All his partners got out, Dravid, Kef, Sehwag, in that match, all of them got out, but he stood there, scored 96 runs. And so yeah, I finished that question, I finished that chapter by asking that it's one of those big what ifs in Indian cricket. What if Sehwag and Dhoni had opened together? That could have been a very different phase of Indian cricket altogether, because when Dhoni arrived on the scene, and before that, we had seen like someone that explosive was Virender Sehwag, right? So when Dhoni arrived on the scene, he was called the Naya Sehwag. And that title was there for a very small period, because then Dhoni had become Dhoni by the end of that year itself. So yeah, a Dhoni Sehwag opening partnership would have been something else. But yeah, Greg Chappell had this template in mind for how his team would chase. And even there, also, one more thing that I want to point out is in the India Sri Lanka series where he made 183, the next team that visited was South Africa. In that series, Dhoni would play at number 8 twice. So Dhoni was meant, like, in that setup, Dhoni was seen as the guy who would finish, irrespective of whatever the score is. He would come in late to give the final flourish. So I think that's pretty much set the template. That pretty much set the precedent for how his career would go. Of course, the fact that he succeeded meant that he kept at it as well.
Very good. So, Amit, if you don't mind, I'd like to talk about Dhoni as a process strategist, because
Yes,
until he became a captain,
right,
we never heard of other previous captains talk about their process. They always focused on, if we do these things, we'll win. He kept Dhoni intentionally kept the results out of the equation. And even
right,
after the 2011 World Cup final, if you look at the post-match interview, uh, and this is right after, like, we won the World Cup, he's probably on cloud nine. It doesn't look like that from his face. And in that
yeah,
presser interactions, he talks of giving youngsters more chance, of taking having a pool of players, because he's like, hey, in a few days from this, IPL will begin, intense pressure, then we have a big calendar, we have to try many people, we have to, without caring for the results. In your
right,
book also, you talk of many incidences where he explains the
yeah,
process, but see, there's so little information available on how Dhoni thinks.
right,
Does he think solo, or because his teammates are also in awe of how his brain works?
right.
So I'm not sure if he ever consulted a group and said, okay, this is the plan we'll go forward with. What do you think?
So
Like, is he a solo strategist, or is he
yeah,
a
so
team
one thing
bonder?
is that uh, again, Dhoni's team meetings are very short. Like, people, Chennai Super Kings setup or India setup, you would go, and there are barely any team meetings as such, unless, like, there have been 5 6 regular failures of the batting order or something. There are no, like, full-fledged team meetings. His team meetings are very short. He believes in keeping things simple. And the entire process thing also, I trace it down to how his career trajectory went, especially from the time, as I said, that he felt that he was doing everything right. Things were not coming to him at that stage, not selected for under 19, and not part of, Team India's plans for World Cup or anything. And then eventually he did get his chance. He made the most of it. So I think that must have strengthened his belief in the fact that, okay, you keep on doing the right things, things would fall in place eventually. And it's not a matter of 1 year, 1 month, tournament. It's about thinking long term. Because, like, you see that phase of Dhoni's career from 99 to 2004, that is what has happened. He has not achieved any, acclaim, fame, for whatever, but those little things that he has done to improve his batting, they have paved the way for a fairly robust start to his career. So Dhoni, as a, his as a process strategist, I think it also comes from his 4 5 years of being in the wilderness, away from anywhere close to Team India chances. And at the same time, again, he likes to keep it simple, very short team meetings. And he's not a solo thinker. It's just that, with the kind of performances that he has given, with the kind of uh, the wins that he has achieved under his belt, and it is, I mean, I do not know, again, currently on Twitter and all, people would dismiss that, he won it because of these reasons or whatever. But yeah, it's not a joke to win 3 ICC trophies within 6 years, right? So the kind of things that he has done for himself as a captain, that has made people believe in him. And he is a very astute reader of the game, right? Like, even for he that 2010 IPL final, Kyron Pollard is going all bonkers, and then he places Matthew Hayden right behind the bowler. Next ball, Kyron Pollard gives a catch to. So he is an astute reader of the game. He knows Joginder Sharma ko. The reason he gave Joginder Sharma that over and not Harbhajan Singh was, Joginder Sharma does not have the pace which Misbah can use. And although Misbah hits him a six right in front, Misbah was always a player who would, he had a lot of tricks up his sleeve. The shot that he attempted of Misbah, of Joginder, of the last ball, like the ball he got out, if that was a ball that was delivered by RP Singh or Srishant, that would have easily flown behind that point fielder, the uh,
Yeah,
fine leg fielder.
he would have scooped
But
it over the
because,
short fine leg guy.
yes, but
Yeah,
because Joginder was a dibbly dobbly sort of a bowler, I think that ball was bowled at around 116 or something, just did not give him enough pace to go over that fielder. So Dhoni had these things in mind. He's a very sharp reader of the game, and yeah, and that's why, like, what he has earned for himself is the respect of people around him who believe that, okay, he has thought it through. And also, the results are there for everyone to see, for whatever franchisee, even Chennai Super Kings, that is the reason why, even after a disastrous season, which we think is disastrous from the outside, Dhoni sees it as part of the process. So, and if
true.
you connect the dots from this to the early part of his career, where he fails to make it to the railway team, where he fails to make it to India under 19 team, you would understand, okay, he saw possibly those things also. Okay, these are things that would lead to a bigger thing. So let's not lose, like, let's not nosedive at this point. Let's stay afloat, wait for the next big opportunity, and make the most of it. So I mean, I hope I am able to establish the connection between how his
Yeah,
first few years with cricket went, and how that shaped his mindset towards cricket in general. Like, what, I mean, we keep on saying this, and it is very easy to say, but it is very difficult to do. And Joy sir, my co-author, writes also in the book, and he talks about how at the end of every match, and he talks about particularly the 2012 Kolkata Chennai final, right, which Kolkata went on to win despite Chennai scoring a big total and all. So he says that after the match, the first people to come to the dressing room and congratulate us were MS Dhoni, Stephen Fleming, the core group of Chennai, and it did not seem that they had lost a final. And that's a that's an attitude very difficult to develop. You can't. Uh, I mean, these are such high pressure situations, such high pressure matches with so much at stake, and if you are able to deal with these things in such a way, of course they put you at a different level. So that's what Dhoni did as a leader, and that is the reason why, despite an awful 2020 IPL, the management trusted him to, do his thing in the 2021 IPL, and they won the trophy. So yeah, he believes in the process, and that comes from possibly his early tryst with cricket. And he knows that, okay, if you do the right thing, things would fall in place. And that's why, where wherever people who are not doing the right thing, who are not putting, like, there is a certain amount of sincerity that you see in the way Dhoni has gone about his cricket. And that is the sense of sincerity he expects from the people who are playing. So I mean, there were few bowlers, right? Munaf Patel, Srishant, Praveen Kumar, brilliant bowlers, but we could see that they were not putting that amount of effort in the field. And that's where, like, as a captain, I mean, again, no documented records of this, but yeah, as a
true.
captain, Dhoni was not in favor of, like, he went for different bowlers, because it's not about whether you lose or whether you win, but have you given your 100%? So yeah,
Agree.
that's what I feel about Dhoni as a process strategist. He had it very early in his life. The defeats that happened way before he gained fame, I think, shaped him in many ways for the years that we have now seen him in limelight.
True. I think I want to add here that, coming from this world of cricket info text commentary, and people over
Right.
there sometimes can be vicious, not Twitter vicious, but in the comments they send there. So Dhoni would stick with players like you mentioned a few players who were not pulling their socks up, but he also stuck with a lot of other players like Rohit Sharma. There was a time when he had a terrible lean patch with the bat,
Of
and I
course.
remember reading text commentary where he was called as no hit Sharma. Like
Yeah,
the
yeah.
minute he would walk out to
Everything.
bat, like the viewer messages would just rile things up. But
Yep.
for whichever reason, Dhoni persisted. And now, if you look at how Rohit has develop both as a batsman and curiously as a captain also. Like I saw his Asia Cup interview and I was counting the number of times he used process in a 1 minute mark. Rohit used process, I think, 7 or 8 times.
Yeah, of course. But at the same time, you have to also look at it in a like uh again 2008 CB series. Rohit Sharma makes his debut, and everyone is in awe of him because of how he handles Australian pitches. Before that, he made his debut T20 debut in South Africa World Cup, did brilliantly. But when he was given a lot of chances, so his uh like until 2011 World Cup, his average like after the CV series was 21. That's how bad it had gotten for him. 18 matches, 297 runs, and 21 was his average. And he was given the stick for that. But that's what is special about Dhoni. Or, I mean, again, special because the stick did not mean that it was the end of the road for him. He was communicated in a way that okay, there are like, and he was given enough chances. It was not that he was deprived of chances and he was always playing for his place or something like that. He was given enough chances in that year itself, but could not ever make that amount of impact. And that's why he was not picked for the 2011 World Cup, which Rohit Sharma now states as the, you know, like he says that I sent a message to Abhishek Nair कि अब बस बहुत हो गया. It in the team was in South Africa when the team was announced for the World Cup, and he was part of that team. And he sent a message to Abhishek Nair saying that अब बहुत हो गया, अब कुछ करना पड़ेगा. And we see that 2 years later he gets to open in the Champions Trophy, and after that whatever has happened is very well known to us. So it's not that Dhoni has like, of course he has stuck around, but not in a way that okay, you the team can suffer because of that. It when it came to taking the hard call, he did take it, but the hard call was not taken in a way that would tell the player okay, this captain does not want me. It's the same for the, as we were talking about the dropping of say Saurav Ganguly from the team ODI team in 2007, right? He was not scoring runs at a pace where the team, the at a pace where the team wanted,
True.
and that's why he was done away with. Okay, but that was not to say that okay, the captain does not want you, you are like for any other reason. There were absolute reasons for the same, but that did not damage the relationship between the two people. Same with Rohit Sharma and Dhoni. And in fact, Dhoni did show a lot of belief in putting him at the top of the order when the 2013 Champions Trophy came. And we know what he has done. So, yeah, there are a lot of such players with whom Dhoni stuck for a long time. Even Suresh Raina, for that matter, I would say we quite underestimate his contributions to the team. Averages more than 35 in that position. Of course, he had his own weaknesses and all, but he did have Dhoni's backing, and Dhoni knew what he was capable of, and he won us a lot of matches. We do not appreciate it as much as we did for, say, a Yuvraj or something, because Yuvraj had that flair in his batting. But yeah, Dhoni, Raina, they won us a lot of matches, and so yeah, there are these stories of Dhoni sticking with players and getting the best out of them, and I really like. I'm so thankful that there are these players whose careers actually blossom that way, and you get to see that more with the Chennai setup. The likes of say a Mohit Sharma, Ishwar Pandey,
Yeah.
Deepak Chahar. Bowlers, Deepak Chahar, we famously know that Guru Greg Chappell had said that you need to stop trying to become a bowler. This is the same Deepak Chahar who goes on to win Chennai Super Kings matches because Dhoni says that okay, you are going to be the bowler who will open the bowling for me in every match. So yeah, he shows his faith in people, and it's not that they are mollycoddled. If they are not performing, they are also dropped. But that dropping, it does not does not get conveyed in a harsh manner where they feel okay, the captain does not have faith in me. They realize that okay, there are things that are not being done right by me. So yeah.
Awesome, man. So Amit, as someone who does a lot of, I guess, quiz mastering, and also you have a repository of this knowledge. Like, how do you store it all? Like, and more so for this book, right? Uh, See, your book was quite fun for me to read, but in the sense that every time there would be some anecdote, I would go on to YouTube. I'm like, "Quick, let's watch this highlight," to sort of relive that moment. But that would lead me down to another rabbit hole, and then I come back to it. So what did
So
your content? How do you work?
so that's something that I also want to address, in the sense that that's what the book intended to do. It was to be a book for the fans of MS Dhoni, of course, because he had retired. This book was planned after he had retired, and we we thought, okay, what is it that we can do? Because there is already a biography of MS Dhoni that Bharat Sundaresan has written from the same publisher. So of course, we were not going to write another biography of MS Dhoni, right? So we had to uh bring out, like, this is exactly what we wanted to do, that you read it, you go and watch him play those shots. You want to, now that you have gotten the context, like, for that matter, the 224 he made against Australia in Chennai in a test match, right? So again, if 10 years, almost 9 years down the line, it's just a scorecard text, like 224 MS Dhoni versus Australia, his highest score. But what was the context of it? The team was coming back of a test series loss at home against England, and we had not lost a test series at home for a very long time. We lost to England. We were blown away by their spinners, not pacers. Swan and Morgan and feet. And of course, India had already lost to Australia and England in away from home. So at that point, everyone was like, okay, Dhoni needs to go. Like, Dhoni, the test captain, needs to go. He's okay in white ball, but test may he is absolutely not imaginative, not this, not that. And I write also in the book how Bishan Singh Bedi said that, in the final test of the England series, Kohli scored a century, Dhoni made 99, and that was seen as, okay, this is the time when the baton has to be passed. Kohli has become a very mature batsman, and it's time for him to take over test captaincy, because Dhoni is not anywhere. I mean, Bishan Singh Bedi said that Dhoni does not even deserve to be in the 11 as a test player. So it is in this context, and now when you watch the innings in this context, you would understand, or you would try to understand, what was possibly going through his mind. So this is exactly what we intended to do through this, through this book, where even for the 76 not out that he played at Lords against England in 2007, where we drew that test match because of rain and because his rearguard action, it is about placing it in that context. At that point of time, MS Dhoni had still not established himself as a test cricketer. In fact, Dinesh Karthik was doing quite well in whites as an opener in that series. But that one innings of MS Dhoni, you would still remember, not because of his extraordinary shots or something, but because how he still stuck around, right? And like the reason I write about it in the book is because there was so much context to it. The DK Dhoni contest was still on. DK was doing quite well, but in that particular innings, it was Dhoni who stood there till the end with his very kacha pakka technique, and he showed that grit. He showed that key, and he showed also improvement, in the sense that in the 2006 Durban Test, he had India were in a similar position where they had to save the test. He made some 44 runs, quick fire 44 runs or something, and then he gave his wicket away. And he also, in the interview given after that match, the 2007 Lords Test, he speaks of it, that in that match I gave my wicket away, and that was playing on my mind, that I do not want to do it now, and that is why I decided to like stay as long as I could. And he went on to play more than 150 balls for that innings. So that is exactly what I wanted to do, give people context, because otherwise these are just numbers. Dhoni 148, Dhoni 183, Dhoni this, Dhoni that. But what was happening in and around the Indian cricket at that point is exactly what I wanted people to learn, understand, and go to YouTube, man. Watch these innings, relive these moments. It is not a biography of Dhoni because we never intended to write one. It does touch upon different aspects of Dhoni, because yes, that's something that we wanted to bring out, but more on, like, as I said, that every innings is a part of a longer journey of MS Dhoni with the Indian cricket team. Even the one where he's last the Bangalore match against Bangalore, where Chennai loses by 1 run. He hits 24 runs of Umesh Yadav in the final over. I mean, that resurgence in that year, Dhoni in 2019 was something else, the way he was playing. So that was the intention to to throw light, through bring light to those innings. And yeah, about my content repository, it's a long answer, but I would cut it short. As you mentioned, that I have been a quiz master, and of course, it all began with quizzing at first. I mean, 10 years ago, I began cricket quizzing. I had been quizzing since my school days. I discovered there is something called cricket quizzing a decade ago. And the first cricket quiz that I went to, of course, did not perform well. And I mean, before that, I had watched a lot of cricket. Cricket was my favorite, thing to like watch, play, everything. But when I did not perform well in that quiz, I was like, okay, this is a big setback, because I thought I would really crush this. And no, I do not know about, very obscure cricketers. So that set me on a path where I would go on to, like, initially it was to win quizzes, that okay, ye quiz haar gaya, but agle cricket quizzes jeetne hain. So that set me on a path to read every Wikipedia page of every possible cricketer, and crick info description, everything. And once I started winning quizzes, I would then, the prize money that I would receive, I would then spend it on books. And yeah, these are like a lot of books that you can see. And this is not even half, because half of it is in Delhi, where my home is. So then I started reading cricket with a, like, yeah, absolute madness. And after a point, it was no more about quizzing, of course. But yeah, after that, I became a quiz master, which meant, like, in a standard quiz, you asked around 60 to 70 questions. Okay. Now, to make 60 to 70 questions, you need to know at least like 100 to 150 pieces of information. Not every piece of information can be turned into a question. And the beauty of quizzing, and why I love it, and why I like ask people to do it, is because when you are trying to make one question, you are going to get to know about 10 more things. You might or might not want to turn them into questions, but you would get to know about. So that research process is something that, I mean, I like, next month there will be a BBC Sport documentary on cricket, on which I have worked as a researcher. There is going to be another documentary in the coming months on the IPL, on which I have worked as a researcher. All those things have sort of, the research that I used to do for quizzing set me on path for this. So that is how I know whatever I know, because I really love to read. And cricket is something, because it is so close to my heart, because I grew up watching a lot of it, and because I, quizzed a lot of cricket. So I that's how I know it. It's no rocket science. It has developed over 10 years of reading a lot. And yeah, the only thing that I, uh, as I said, that as a quizzer, you look for things that can be turned into stories, that is a trivia. So you go looking for those things when you're reading, and that has resulted in a fairly large repository of, I don't think of it as content, but yeah, there are a lot of stories in my mind. If you, say, acha Amit, ye mic pakdo aur cricket ki kahaniyan sunao, I can do that for hours. And honestly, yeah, just something that I enjoy. I love to tell stories, I love to read, I love to connect the dots, because that's mostly, I mean, it's not about you read it in one book and that's it. you know uh, when you are reading someone's book, it is their perspective, but what about others? So say for an Australian team, 99 World Cup, again, we know of how it went for them. They started off badly, then they went on to uh, that South Africa match, Herschel Gibbs catch 120 by
Right.
Steve Waugh, went on to win. Okay. So that 99 World Cup, if I'm looking at it only through the lens of what Steve Waugh has written, that would be talking his part of the story. But what about the others? And one person that everyone credits for that 99 World Cup, and you won't hear a lot about it. So Tom Moody was part of that team. And when the tournament began, I'm sorry if I'm taking it a bit too long, but yeah, just thought I
No,
would.
this is a fun conversation. Keep it going, Amit.
Yeah, yeah. So when the tournament began in 1999, uh, Steve Waugh had become a captain just a couple of years ago, after Mark Taylor had been sacked as the ODI captain. And when the tournament began, Steve Waugh was quite like, the he was a disciplinarian, right? So uh, the team was asked to not go for night outs. They were asked to not bring their wives, and there were certain restrictions like that were being placed, and that had sort of affected the team's morale. As we know, Australians like to play their cricket in a certain way and all, and that sort of attitude was not going down well with a lot of teammates of Steve Waugh, and that came across in the way they started their tournament. So, and Tom Moody was the other player apart from Steve Waugh who had been part of the 87 setup, if I'm not wrong. So Tom Moody was another senior. He recognized that this was like becoming a bit of a problem, and you can read it in every one's autobiography, be it Darren Lehman or Adam Gilchrist, where the way he intervened, the way he sort of brought a resolution to this situation, and like made sure that everyone was free to do whatever they wanted because it had an impact on how they performed on the field. And that's how the turnaround came, where they would then go on to win last 5 matches and all. Of course, they wouldn't win the semi-final, draw it, but yeah, still. So, so that's what I was talking about. That the if I was going to talk about what Steve Waugh has said, then it would not be a story. Then it would be telling what Steve Waugh has written in his. So I have to
True.
read a number of things. I have to verify that information from a number of places, and then I can tell a story. Then I can claim to tell a story, right? So yeah, that is what I do. That is what the connecting the dots bit I was talking about. And yeah, I enjoy doing it. And of course, over the last 2 3 years, when I started doing it on Facebook and Twitter, uh, the kind of reception that I have received, the kind of love that I have received, I never knew that it is something that people would enjoy so much. But yeah, it has pushed me in the direction of reading more. It has pushed me in the direction of following cricket even more passionately. And I think this is the right direction because I enjoy it a lot.
I think, Amit, you have to keep that passion going because, as you say, or as the title of the book says, you bring out these untold stories, right? Who knew that this Australian turnaround was going to be like essentially a non-cricketing decision, right? It's and
Yeah.
that sparks a whole turnaround. And I think that
And even
piece
when,
of nugget,
so just to like
yeah,
just not a non-cricketing decision, but because of Tom Moody is not a star performer. The star performers were, of course, Ponting, Gilchrist, Bevan, Steve Waugh himself, Shane Warne. But that what Tom Moody did behind the scenes in the dressing room had a major impact on how that changed the fortunes of the team in the tournament. So yeah, those are the things that like I enjoy telling. And of course, look now, people have their own, like, I mean, there are cricket websites and everything. And so my intention is to bring out a story that has not been told before in, say on a in a website or something. So that's why, that is the intention, and that's how I keep it going.
and it's a terrific book. Like for anyone who's watching this, listening to this, you might be reading a transcript. Please get Amit and Joy Bhattacharya's book, Dhoni. Sorry, Do Different, The Untold Dhoni. It's a fabulous book. It will refresh you, and it's not just the perspective of two authors. They blend in the perspective of many people, in the Dhoni ecosystem. Be it as former colleagues, players, be it selectors, and they talk of different nuances, right? So, Samit, even the parts of Dhoni's training approach and how it's so different than, let's say, a traditional wicket keeper.
Yeah.
Or you talk of, there's this interesting word which I did not know of before, the hote. Is that pronounced
Yes.
correctly?
Yeah.
So just that tiny bit, it's so interesting that played a part in Dhoni, leading us and inspiring us. So yeah,
Mm.
do get Amit's book, and of course follow him on Twitter and LinkedIn. At Twitter, he's the random cricket photos guy.
Yes, thank you so much, Himang. And yeah, I can only ask people to pick up that book, because as Himang said, that it is not only the story of his innings or anything, but also looking at people who had a very close look at Dhoni from the times when he was beginning to make waves in Indian cricket. We have got his the account of his first manager, right? Like I mean, right now brand Dhoni is at its peak, but how was it when it began its journey in the entertainment, the cricket entertainment industry? So a lot of such people have written about him in the book. And you would also get a fan's perspective in one of the chapters which comes from me. So yeah, I hope people buy this book, enjoy it. And yeah, again, once again, it is not a biography of Dhoni, because that's something that is already written by Bharat Sundaresan, another fantastic book called The Dhoni Touch. I would also like, if you are reading this book, definitely go and check that out. Brilliant book as well. And yeah, give this a read, let us know how you like it. We are there, both I and Joy sir are there on Twitter. We would love to hear from you.
Great. Thanks, Amit. Thanks for this very interesting discussion. We got some wonderful comments along the way. Who found your insights quite refreshing, for a good Sunday morning. So thanks so much for
Perfect.
joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me here.
Sure. Sure. Take care and have a pleasant weekend, everyone.